Rest.
Okay.
Yep.
Shall we call roll?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Katie Reese. I'm here. Chuck Yang, are you present?
Here.
Alyssa Prophet.
Here.
Thank you. Michelle Winter.
Here.
Alex Zacharias. Okay, and our liaisons, Beth Kowalski,
Here.
Rizal Picuero Almonte, Sadie Wilson, and Timothy Perlitz. Okay, we'll call roll. Approving the agenda, motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, and that brings us with due haste to regular business. And I look forward to handing this off to Laura.
Item 1, regular business, consideration with possible action to review and approve the City of Green Bay Poet Laureate RFP. Within the agenda packet, this was developed off of a communication we received from Alder Johnson. He was interested in the Public Arts Commission to explore developing and establishing a City of Green Bay Poet Laureate program or position. So initially, this kind of was brought to the committee. You discussed creating a creative laureate. That went back to council, and they wanted it to be a poet laureate specifically. So based on council's input, I developed a rough outline for a poet laureate position or program based off of similar communities, similar community sizes. And really, it's kind of the RFP, but if you guys see edits that you'd like, we can make those. And I guess kind of to backtrack too, I don't want to totally leave out people in the conversation. We had started looking at establishing a poet laureate back in 2019. Tori Grant Wellhouse, who's joining us virtually, she actually reached out and had a small group of library representatives and other members from UW Green Bay and the literary arts sector that were actually working on this prior to the pandemic. As we all know, things kind of got a little crazy. So when Alder Johnson tapped on us to explore this again, I reached out to Tori since we had kind of started these conversations previously. So she's been an incredible help as far as providing some input on what she'd like to see the program be and kind of what we think might be a good, at least, starting point. So if Tori, I don't want to totally offer you up, Tori, but if you had anything that you'd like to share, we can open the floor for you. Otherwise, if that was a good enough spiel, you don't have to talk if you don't want to.
I think you encapsulated. I guess I would just add
Okay.
the VP.
Sorry, just once, do we need to make a motion to open the
I'll make a
floor?
motion.
We'll open the floor.
Sorry to be,
Second.
right? Okay. And then Tori, can you state your full name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Tori Grant Wellhouse, 2967 School Lane, Green Bay, 54313.
Thanks so much.
I guess I would just add that I am the VP for the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets, and our organization was advocating for poet laureate positions. And that was kind of the impetus for the work pre-pandemic.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak? The floor is open. Is Alderman Johnson present or anyone from council?
Just our normal councilman.
Just me.
And I guess
I'm glad to have you.
And I guess working off of Tori's mention of Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets. The way that this is drafted is quite loose as far as what the poet laureate would be doing. I'm not an expert at poetry or literary arts. I did win a contest back in 8th grade, but I don't think that necessarily makes me, the best person to be deciding this. So the reason that it's somewhat loose, there is an expectation that applicants must live in Green Bay or at least be able to make a strong case to ties to the community. And then as far as that, if they don't necessarily live directly in Green Bay, they still have to at least be sure that they can attend events throughout their term. So as far as the expectations of what this poet laureate is going to be doing, that is a bit broad, or loose, I should say, in that it is expected that they will be able to attend some council meetings to read an original piece or to attend ribbon cuttings or other celebrations within the city. So they need to be somewhat easily accessible. But then outside of that, I know we had kind of talked last time about publishing opportunities and things like that. With that stipend that they're receiving, kind of leaving it a little bit more broad that once the poet is selected, working with staff, we would kind of work through what it is they're going to be doing during their term. Maybe they're really into publishing something and they want to use that stipend to get something solidified through that. Maybe they want to do interactive community zines or something else. I didn't want to box in what they were doing exactly because I kind of want them to be driving the bus a little bit during their term. Outside of that, yes, back to the stipend portion, they would be receiving a max of $5,000 for a 2-year term, $2,000 each year as their stipend, and then a material fee up to $1,000. So could be a little bit less, but we're looking at roughly spending $5,000 for a poet laureate for 2 years. And then outside of that, the only other thing that kind of is item of note, I would say, is that looking at the evaluation process and the selection process, I would like to try and find, kind of working with Tori and that Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets group that originally started those conversations, finding professors and people that are tapped into the literary art scene, have them be reviewing our applications and then providing a recommendation to this body to then approve. So you guys wouldn't be like initially reviewing everything, you'd kind of be getting the second round of evaluations if that is agreeable. Other than that, I think those are kind of the highlights of the initial draft. Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
I think that you saying, leaving it open as we can, I think that's a great idea, because then we're not locking anybody into anything. That, we open the pool to many more people, I think. And I think it would be a good idea to kind of look to the future too, in that what they put together, that at least one piece of their tenure be saved and possibly in the future put into a book representing the poet laureates of Green Bay, 10 years down the line or something, so that we can keep track of that, so people see that our cultural base is growing. It's just not staying stagnant. And so in that too, maybe creating a web page attached to the city that reflects the poet laureate, so that it can be looked at by other communities and also drawn from for those communities to build their own poet laureate.
I think that's a great point, Michelle, and that brings me to sort of my questions or concerns. I see what's good about this for the city of Green Bay. I'd like to see a little more about what's good for the poet other than a stipend, and so I think the commitment from the city to have a static page where they're publishing it, and I think, Laura, you talked about this person working with staff on city, but would you be their point person to help set up those connections, or how would that happen?
Yes, yep, I would be the point person. I also would be me and Shelby, our amazing IT tech person, would be setting up that page. It would be a sub-tab under our current arts page.
Yeah.
Great. The only kind of concern I had with the draft as you sent it was at the very end, the kind of, what I assume is maybe boilerplate language for the city. The city reserves the right to such and such, and I understand that that's there to protect the city, but there's something, the second sentence there says, the city reserves the right to cancel or discontinue the poet laureate term of service at any time with or without cause, fine, and with or without notice to the poet or the public. I understand not notifying the public, but I don't understand why we wouldn't notify the poet if we're terminating a contract. And this is probably just my ignorance, but why don't we tell the person?
It probably has to do like with a 30-day notice or something like that.
Right.
You would be noticed right away and it would be effective immediately, instead of like, we're canceling the agreement effective 30 days from now or 60 days from now.
That's how I read it.
Those are examples of notice, though. We're talking about without notice. Is that?
That means that we can tell them right away and it's effective immediately. So,
Any like prior notice or?
yep, so it would be like, oh, I'm sorry, we no longer need your services, effective immediately.
But that would be giving them notice, wouldn't it, to tell them that?
No,
Am I misunderstanding
giving them
something?
notice would be, in 30 days, your term will be ended.
Oh, okay, so, yes, okay. Thank you for clarifying, and I think I was
Okay.
misunderstanding that word. Okay.
Well, and it's good to ask those questions because those kinds of things are kind of new to all of us out here. So that's good to understand what that is.
Now, I have one more question, and Laura, I think this will go to you, but the timeline looks, it looks like we're trying to get this in this year and have the Common Council select it by the end of December. If we're releasing the RFP in October and then the deadline is a month later, that's, to me, seems like not a lot of time. Maybe, Tori, this is something you could speak to. In my world, applications are open for months, at a minimum, maybe 6 weeks, but this just seems like we hurt ourselves by having such a short window because that limits the amount of time we can get this out to people. Can you speak to that, Tori?
It is a little aggressive. The state laureate position is open for quite a few months, so.
I'm okay extending it. This was just kind of an initial toss out there, and most of our calls we do keep open roughly a month, or as you said, kind of 6 weeks, so a month and a half. So I can certainly extend it if there's a strong desire. This was just, there's no like, oh, we gotta get it in January 1.
Okay, if there's no push to get it on the books by the end of this fiscal year or by the end of this calendar year, then I think a little more time would be good, especially since it's so new and people won't know to look for it, and so that'll give us time to beat the pushes.
Do we feel 2 months is comfortable, or do we want a little bit more of a bigger window?
I think 2 months is good because otherwise,
I feel like at a certain point, you forget about, you're like, oh, I got time,
I got
and then
time.
you
Exactly,
forget about
and then
it.
it's gone.
So
That's what I was gonna say.
does 2 months seem a little bit more agreeable?
That's, more hospitable.
Okay.
Related to that, Laura, can the city, I'm sure the city has lots of press releases going out, and maybe the Poet Laureate program is not a top priority, but could the city help us publicize that this opportunity is starting, and
Yes.
is it newsworthy?
Yeah, I think it is.
I do too.
And once you guys approve it and that goes to council and they adopt this, then absolutely we can announce that, hey, this is, council approved this and we're gonna be releasing a call soon, keep your eyes open.
And maybe, does that go on the city's Facebook or anything like that so that we can share it?
Yeah, typically, we can just coordinate to share it on the city's main Facebook page, but typically we send out our information through the City of Green Bay Community and Economic Development page, which isn't necessarily the most visible page. But I can also send it out. I send out all of our calls through our kind of email list that we have. And then, I can make a point to try and get it on the city's main channel.
Yeah,
It
just-
definitely gets more eyes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that when, I want to share it because I do know people that would be interested, but I want to do a commission, city-approved pass-along rather than making something out of error.
Oh, Michelle, be empowered. It doesn't need to be city approved. Promote away.
Quick question on the committee that actually reviewed this. It says that the council, the Public Arts Commission would approve the 3 to 4. Do you already have, did I miss that part? Do you already have this selected, or is there?
I did not go to the effort to work on that because I didn't know if you guys were gonna agree to it or not. So I didn't want to do work if I didn't know if it was actually gonna happen.
Do
So,
it.
Well, it's more the timeline piece of it, to know, like, because to have that, really making sure you have those individuals locked in and approved to create the timeline is my only thought.
yes, so I
If you get
think,
more pushback or less consideration, it might take more time to actually open that review process, have that locked in yet.
so I guess my thought process was if you guys approve this today, then I would work with Tori to we already have kind of a loose list of potentials, but lock in that kind of recommended list of evaluators. Bring that to this commission next month for approval. And then
That's great, because then they're in place by,
they'll be in place, especially if we're extending this deadline, they'll be in place for evaluation.
I know on the RFP it says timeline subject to change, but do you want exact dates for like the Public Art Commission and Common Council? Because if we push it out, I don't think council's schedule is
Yeah.
set for next year until
Council's schedule typically isn't set
until
until,
November. So then you won't have exact dates, which is fine if that's fine.
yeah. If
Because
you
it'll
guys
just
are
be the
okay with
month
that.
of.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
really, I mean,
yeah,
like, it's not
One
that,
quick- I'm sorry.
it's not that the poet needs to be present at council
For the selection.
for the selection, it's just kind of like, okay, well, these are the check marks that we need to get through. So that they aren't like, okay, well, I submitted it then, but like, why aren't you telling me until,
Yeah.
like, well, we have to go through these other things. But I can put a note like, attendance not required or something like that if that's helpful too.
I've got another question for Tori. And in art, when I apply to a show, I really like to know who the juror is because it's helpful information. Is that the case in your field? Like when you apply to a writing competition, you want to know the name of the judge or jurors, or meh?
Usually we include the judge who's reviewing the contest, for our contest, yes, and their background.
So Laura, if we worked for that, that would delay us a little more, or I don't know how fast you and Tori could kind of secure names and bios. We're thinking like 3 or 4 people for this review panel.
Yeah. We could, it would delay it if we send it to, can I look up a calendar? Again, it's a loose timeline, it's not that we needed to get it on, plus if we need to work through council's schedule not being set until roughly November, we could just have the judges brought, the recommended judges brought to the October meeting, set that in place. Council's gonna meet shortly after that to approve it. Then I can update the timeline, because I'll have to wait anyway, to wait for the council schedule, so.
yeah.
Tori and I can work together. Sorry, Tori, I'm just volunteering this. Tori and I can work together to get those judges, those recommended judges put together for our next meeting. And then I can include that bio, or at least a snippet of who our selected judges are in the final RFP then once the council schedule's set and update that schedule too.
Okay, if you don't mind taking that on, I think that would, again, kind of honoring the expertise the people we're drawing on, and then it's something that they can point to with evidence as well, so.
No, and I think, we're in a good spot that thankfully this isn't really time sensitive, so we have some flexibility.
I understand the intention of this RFP and trying to keep it open for the poet laureate to kind of develop this program into what they want it to be, right? But is there, I guess, should we set some minimum criteria? Because it sounds like I could be a poet laureate, give me $5,000 and I don't really do anything.
Well, under the submittal requirements, I think that that's really a good section.
And if we just stick with, like, if they're not holding to their vision and plan that they submit in the cover letter, then we fall back on our reservation, right? Or
Yeah, and
I'm just trying to see, like, is there, you know, like a minimum criteria that we are setting? And I know we want to try to keep it open and allow them to have, you know, their artistic view of how they want to bring this out, right? But if it leads to basically not performing, right, then I guess we just fall back on our reservation with our
Right.
last paragraph,
Right.
right? If
I think that's a better way to do it. I hear you, Chuck, on wanting to, like, make sure we kind of get our money's worth, but especially since it's so new, I think let's trust the experts that we're soliciting. And it's going to be a great opportunity, we hope, for these poets, so there's no reason that they wouldn't want to show up with their best and brightest selves.
And I saw
Or am I-
those specifics being kind of listed out. Once we've selected our poet, like, then they'll work with
Yep.
me and law really to kind of develop that agreement of, okay,
Okay.
you've been selected as poet laureate. Here's kind of our initial thought of what you would be accomplishing. So we could list, you'll read poetry at 6 council meetings.
yeah.
And that can be like one item in there, and then incorporate kind of their final plan for what they'd like to develop during their term. That can
Okay.
also be included in that agreement.
Mhm.
Um,
So that's just something that we think we can establish after it's
Yeah.
been awarded. I just didn't want it to all of a sudden say, okay, poet laureate, here you go. 2 years later, hey, did you guys do anything?
Well, and I think, coming from, you know, being in the art world, the other thing that we want to do is, because there's so much breadth of what a poet laureate can be,
Mhm.
you know, because it could be spoken word and, you know, there's a lot of different
Yes.
genres within that. So by leaving it that open, then when the poet laureate is chosen, then they can dial in on what their specific
Mhm.
art form is, and then develop the requirements or the expectations after that, after those two things come together.
And maybe the basis, the initial basis that what I'm thinking of is probably in their cover letter is what their vision and plan is.
Right. Yeah, and they are submitting a maximum of 10 original poems, videos, something, so that we do have a basis
Mhm.
for that. And I think, you know, trusting our professionals in the writing community to select that person, I think
Yep.
that will work out. I think we've got enough checks and balances in the whole thing that it's gonna work out beautifully. It's not limiting, and yet there's enough there to create a vision for the future.
Now we close the floor. Are there other things we should discuss before we bring it to a vote?
Make a motion to close the
Motion to
floor.
close the floor?
Yeah.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The floor is closed. Now we call the question.
So with some of these
And
changes.
so that would be approving the proposed Green Bay Poet Laureate project with suggested revisions to the timeline, or that comport with. what
I would just
you
say
said, Laura?
like suggested amendments, because there's a few of them. It's not just the timeline.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve with suggested amendments.
Seconded?
All right, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye. All opposed? The motion passes unanimously.
That's pretty
Okay.
exciting.
Mhm.
Good job, y'all.
Yeah.
That brings us to F, informational, the coordinator's report and project updates.
Yes. So a few updates on our small ARPA art grants. Some of them are already wrapped up, a lot of them are getting really close to kind of meeting those boxes or checking those boxes for their grant requirements. I wanted to highlight one of them, though, that is going to be coming up, the John Muir Park Neighborhood Association. As a reminder, we gave them a grant to put up roughly 12, 15 woodcut sculptures within their park. The sculptures are finished, and they're actually at Park Shop. They're working on finding a time that they can install them. It's a tentative unveiling for October 12th, so once I learn more, keep your calendar slightly open. So that one's exciting. In addition, as far as kind of rolling off of that, with sculptures, our Farland Park sculptures, the footing placement for those just got approved this past week. Corey and I went out on site to approve the staking for those. Overall, the park development is fairly on track, but it was delayed slightly. Those footings should be poured, I hope sometime this week. I don't know when. The footings will be poured, and once those are set, then we'll have Ben come and install. Worst case scenario, we're running up against that November timeline to pay him. He needs 2-week notice because he has a few other projects going on too. So if for some reason the footings get delayed quite a bit, we can have Ben come and just deliver the work at least, and then coordinate the ever amazing parks crew to help install them. So those are moving forward. Once that is set, I don't know if we'll do an individual celebration unveiling of just the sculptures, or if we'll kind of coordinate something with parks in general to celebrate all of the updates to that space. Most likely that will be the case because it still is kind of an active construction site. Also, percent for art money, I think we had mentioned that at our last meeting. We have roughly 70,000 in percent for art funds. During our next meeting, we'll be selecting chair and vice chair, and then I'll also be presenting the financial report, but so you can see actual numbers. But we have roughly 70,000. At that last meeting that we're at, I had mentioned I applied for an NEA grant to match those funds. Fingers crossed, I won't find out until April, so it's a long burn. So those funds are not allocated, but somewhat called for in the meantime. And then I also wanted to mention, not anything that we provided a grant to, but I wanted to highlight Joanne's Jam. Thank you. If you wanted to talk about it.
Oh, sure. Okay, so this Saturday, our neighborhood association is having an event called Joanne's Jam. It'll be the first one of its kind. We have 2 stages set up in the park. We'll have 5 local music acts, including County Board Supervisor for District 4, Emily Jacobson, is going to be performing at one of the stages. We'll have free food provided by JBS, and Crisis Cafe is going to prep the food provided by JBS and Festival, and it'll be free for everyone. Laura has been patiently along the whole way with us, coming to our meetings, watching it evolve from.
It's so exciting to see. I'm very excited.
Yeah, so from
I'll be
2 to 6 in Joanne's Park, and hopefully we see a lot of people there. Hopefully we get some nice weather and just come out and
What day?
cap off this Saturday from 2 to 6, because this week is Good Neighbor Week. So we're hoping everyone, after diligently working on their projects and supporting their neighborhood projects, will come and relax in our park to celebrate the end of Good Neighbor Week.
Fantastic. Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We're excited.
Yeah, you should be. That's great.
It's so exciting. I mean, thinking about when you guys were like, we want to do this thing, and just to see how it's evolved over time.
And we got good acts too. Like we got Joshua, Alley Cat, and the Perfection. Like we got some good local acts. I'm like excited about that because we partnered with the Tarleton Theater as well. So he gave us a bunch of pointers because he does the Shipyard All Bands on Deck Festival. So he helped us a lot. John's Refrigeration sponsored a stage. So the city printed some awesome banners for us. So
Nice.
shout out to Erica in printing. She's always there for us.
Is there, if we wanted to share this information with our networks, is there like a website we could point to, or?
Yep, the
something like
Facebook, the Facebook page for Joanne's Park Neighborhood Association has been posting it all, and there is an event called Joanne's Jam 2024 on Facebook.
Is there anything that's not Facebook?
unfortunate.
I know.
We have physical flyers. I could email a PDF out to the,
I would love that.
okay,
Would you?
perfect. Yep, absolutely.
I know Facebook remains kind of the best platform for events, but it's,
Yeah, well, it's on Nextdoor too. Those are the, but we do have physical flyers we've been trying to put in local
anything that's not a proprietary platform.
Right, right.
Other updates or questions or?
That is about it for now. Other than that, our next meeting is October 23rd. And yeah, as I said, we will be electing vice chair and chair at that time, so get yourselves ready, folks. Please show up.
Don't show up and you could be the chair.
True.
That happened to Randy.
So yeah.
Didn't we do that to Chuck last time?
Yeah.
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 Thanks, Chuck.
You're a great vice chair.
I'm just glad Katie's always here. Thank you, Katie.
All right, thanks everyone for your great work. Motion to adjourn?
Second, whatever I need to do, first, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I forget.
All opposed? All right, see you all in October, if not sooner.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Tori.
Thank you.
Bye.
Recording stopped.
So how are